Hello, my good human. Welcome back to the channel. It's Luana Rose from luanarose.com. Today's video is inspired by an Instagram post I recently did that got a lot of feedback. A lot of people disagreed with me, and some folks shared their experience and agreed with this simple statement, my opinion, that healing from childhood trauma should be boring. This is a big topic. We could really talk about this for hours. In this video, I'm going to keep it short, 3 points to back up why healing from childhood trauma, or any trauma in fact, should be boring. Point number 1 is if you are a coach, a helping person, a medical professional, healthcare professional, teacher, then let's look at this topic through this lens, okay? We live in a world, in a paradigm where we are trained as healthcare professionals to come in with an intervention and help someone, help change their experience, their suffering, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain. We need to get a result. We need to have validation that the intervention that we're coming in with is in fact working. So that validation is in the change, is in a big result. The problem is with accumulated stress and trauma in the system, if we work from this lens, which brings me to point 2, is the individual that we're helping will feel overwhelmed because an individual's capacity, this is point number 2, an individual's capacity to process stress, to process uncomfortable sensations in the nervous system, in the body, can only change in small incremental amounts. When I work with people, our goal, which I say right in the first session, and we're always coming back to this intention, is my goal is to always help the individual build their container, their capacity to move through different states of stress and of relaxation, and not panic if something is uncomfortable. So at first, the individual will generally panic if they feel tightness and like a brick is on the individual's chest, and that's normal, especially if it's been continuous throughout life. It's very uncomfortable. However, as we focus on building that container, the body and brain's capacity to be with uncomfortable sensations without panic, then we can still have those activating experiences, the discomfort. However, we will not panic. The individual learns not to panic. So for example, I work with a lot of folks that have some sort of panic disorder. So in session, we work on building that person's capacity to be with the discomfort in a very gentle, titrated way, like working on a gentle pond. And we're not looking for big changes, big experiences. We're looking for the person to, in session, be able to be in connection with a secure base, and therefore build up their capacity to not panic and to be with sensations that before they would panic if it was so uncomfortable. So then after session, in between sessions, the weeks we're working together, they'll have more capacity going out into the world because their neurobiology has more of a map for, I don't have to freak out when I'm feeling heightened activation or heightened uncomfortable sensations. And over time, we build this map to become strong and a large capacity. So this is why we work slow. We can build this map, or we can only build this map in a slow, titrated way. Because I always say, depending on the age of the person I work with kids, babies, people from 25 to 45 to, I've even worked with people that are 100 years old. So depending on how long the individual has been with those patterns, it takes a system time to change, and we can't rush that change. It really has to be titrated, which means slow and just a little bit, and then we see how the system responds, so that the individual can feel capable, like they have the capable capacity to be with uncomfortable sensations. Thirdly, in many therapies, the focus is indeed on the activation, on the hurt, the intensity, the literally recounting the traumatic experience. So focusing on that does not actually build a bigger container. So thirdly, when we focus on building the container, expanding the pond of capacity, what happens? The same activation that used to be too much, with a bigger capacity container, that same activation will feel like less, even though it's the same. An example of an expanded container is individuals will come back after session and say that they are doing things relatively easily that they weren't capable of doing before. And it's happening organically. They're not pushing themselves. They're not really using that willpower. It's kind of just unfolding and happening naturally. For example, a common one is setting boundaries and asking for what the individual needs. If folks who struggle with fawning and people pleasing, which is a very common thing, they'll naturally start to be more comfortable and organically ask for what they need. That's not for me. And then also say, hey, I need this in their relationships, in their life. That's one simple example. For other folks, if individuals have experienced agoraphobia, the fear of going outside or too far away from home without having a panic attack, individuals come back to me and say, hey, I actually was able to drive to the city next to mine and spend the weekend away with friends without having a panic attack. So these are the results that we see when we focus on building capacity and regulation. When we focus on the boring part of the healing, which really is the whole part. Ironically, it actually is not boring. It's actually very fulfilling when we get those milestones, those examples that I just shared with you. I hope it offered you some insight into why healing from childhood trauma should indeed be boring. If you'd like to get help with this yourself, or if you have friends, share this video. You can also go to luanarose.com to book a private session and check out my other resources over at luanarose.com. I wish you very well, and I'll see you in the next video.